professionally work in like client services, but a bit of like creative as well at the Midnight Club. So that's a agency who works with Adidas football. So yeah, let's just say an agency who works with Adidas football. So yeah, mainly football, bit of running as well, but yeah, football. And then outside of work, work on Zamara, which is basically a world building concept that me and three of my friends have built. So we started that in January 2024. Do things like parties, but also done like a lot of studio shoots and like editorial and like merch and all of that sort of stuff as well. And then yeah, trying to grow that out into being something bigger and wider, but you know, still just working, still just pushing on that. So those would be like the two main places I exist in, and then editing this as well.
How would you describe the work that you do?
The work that I do, I would say interesting. I'd say um, depends. Like 9 to 5 stuff, I think intriguing, cool, exploratory. I think outside of like 9 to 5 stuff, I'd say definitely like I wouldn't say groundbreaking probably isn't the right word, but I think like definitely like trying to be culture shifting and trying to do stuff that people haven't done before and look at things from a different way. So unique, I guess, would be
Mm.
the word.
Could you give some examples of the things that you've done, just briefly?
Yeah, so I think main thing being like hotels and Mara. So working on that with um my friends and just trying to create like that space for mainly black people, community spaces, and trying to do that through like parties, but also trying to do that through like shoots, editorial, and all of that sort of stuff as well. So I think that's definitely been like one of the most like ambitious things I've done in the last like 2 years, but definitely one of the most rewarding and seeing like where we've been able to take it. And again, it still feels like it's very much in its infancy, but seeing how people react to it and like see the growth potential for it as well is quite exciting because I feel like we've barely even started. But again, seeing the reaction that we get here, seeing the reaction we've got abroad when we've done stuff like say in Paris and stuff has been good as well. So I think that really.
So you sit at the crossroads of football, creativity, community, and brand work. How do you stay grounded in your own identity while moving through all of these spaces?
Good question. I think probably by like not looking at too much. Like I'm aware of what's going on, like things if you talk like campaigns, what other people are doing for work and so on. But I try to not spend my whole day looking at what other people are doing because I think if you look at what other people are doing for your whole day, you end up becoming them because you just literally spent your whole day looking at what the next man's doing basically. So I prefer to like, yeah, look for sure, be aware for sure, because it's good to celebrate like what other people are doing as well. But remember like what my interests are, what I like, who I am as a person, and kind of stick to those things as well. Like definitely be a bit stubborn about like my ideals, the things I like to consume, and not fall too much into, you know, just looking at what other people are doing. Kind of remembering that again, like if I am a geography nerd, remember that I'm a geography nerd and use that to my advantage. Like that's my niche, so I should use that. And I know not many people might have that sort of niche, but that's cool. I'll do my own thing. So I think it's just that, and just remembering like who I am, what my traits are, what my interests are, and basically reverting back to those at any point where I feel like things are overwhelming or things are a bit too much. So
If someone described the signature of your work, what parts of yourself would they hope they recognized in it?
I think like I think an accuracy and like an attention to detail. I think again like it's probably the third, fourth time I've already mentioned being a geography nerd, but let's go back there again. I think like interesting ways of using things that relate to the world and relate to like countries and states and so on, and kind of seeing that through the work. Like people who know me know that's like one of my main things, or things that something I really like, and then merging that with like other things like travel. So I think being able to like associate some of those things and some of those niche things with things I output would be like my thing or something that you could say, all right, cool, that's his stamp on it. I'll give an example, like with Zamara, and the concepts where we had like passports and so on. You know, that was from all of us sitting down and thinking about, like, again, if we're doing like a nation state country type thing, what are things that you need? You know, you need a coat of arms, you need a currency, you need a flag, you need a passport, you need a route to entry, you know, all of those sort of things, which I think are things that people often take for granted. But when you speak to people from different countries around the world and you compare like even like the power of a passport, say, it's really, really interesting seeing how some people have, you know, the power to basically go anywhere without getting checked, whereas other people, you know, try to go next door and they're getting checked, you know. And it's like, why does that thing exist? Why do those different like power dynamics exist? You know, so I find those sort of things interesting, and I think those things can be worked or put into your work in different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's so heavy and you're saying, oh, this is the reason why, and it's due to oppression and all those things, which it is, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that. There are different ways you can work those like interests and tropes into your work. So I think if those things exist throughout the work that I do, then I hope other people would see that and kind of know that that's a me signature, basically. So
football has always been about belonging. What spaces in football feel most like home to you, and which ones don't?
I think spaces that do feel like belonging is definitely like things like Sunday League, I feel, and like grassroots football, inner city London grassroots football feels homely. I think just hearing people go at it, hearing insults, hearing all of those sort of things, like that feels very homely, because that's the type of football experience that I grew up on. I think as well as that, those would be the two main places I'd say. I'd say like sometimes, like if we want to say like the terraces or like go into games, like in my adult life, I've started going to games a lot more than I did when I was a child. I think that's like often the experience with like quite a lot of us inner city people, where we were so locked into football. But if you ask how many of us did you have a season ticket for the team that you liked, or did you ever go there weekly or so on, a lot of us didn't, to be fair. So I think I had that similar experience as well. But as an adult, like going to games and stuff, I wouldn't necessarily say I feel at home there, I'll be so honest. Like being an Arsenal fan, like going to the Emirates and stuff, it is a nice place to go. It's a fine place to go, but I don't know. I don't look around the terraces. I'll be honest. Look around terraces and say, yeah, this is my guy because he's an Arsenal fan. I know a lot of people are like that. I'm not really. I think where I do feel at home is maybe more like watching in the terraces. I'd say it's like watching maybe international football. So like going to say like this year when the Unity Cup was played, like when it was Ghana versus Nigeria, and being in the stand there, and I'm there with like my family and like cousins and stuff. That felt like being at home. Like that. Like even the Ghanaians who obviously are meant to be the ops and all that, obviously we know the banter, but seeing them like in Waterloo Station, I remember wearing like my Nigeria shirt, and a bunch of Ghanaian uncles were shouting at me, telling me how Ghana's gonna do this and do that. They never do, but you know, do this and do that. That felt fun. It felt fun. It felt homely. Like I really did enjoy that, like back and forth. And that was in Waterloo Station, and the game was in Brentford. So it's like these guys are on me like miles away, but I liked that. I thought that was fun, and it felt like homely. A bunch of uncles, like it felt nice, you know. So I think those sort of spaces. So I don't know if again that's like a nationality thing, an ethnicity thing, but yeah, I think it really just depends. So yeah, definitely like the grassroots scene, but as well as that, like, you know, certain international games where you're around like certain communities that, you know, look like you and feel like you.
When you work with clubs, players, or brands, how do you protect authenticity, both theirs and yours?
I think by speaking up. I think when you're in like creative rounds or sessions with people who are detached from the culture of football, you have to speak up, and you have to speak up with conviction to ensure that, like, you know, the space is being protected. Like anything, you know, you want to make sure that you're not just at the table. A seat at the table is nice, but if you're a seat at the table and your mouth's closed, then, you know, what is it really doing? So I think having that seat at the table and feeling empowered and confident enough to speak, but also like if you're on set, just having like natural communication, I think it's just that. And understanding where people come from and doing your research as well, you know, understanding where, like, if you're working with a player, maybe, you know, where their career trajectory is taken them, which different countries they've been in, you know, how they grew up, you know, which information you can find. And I think maybe for me, I have a leg up in that way where the background that a lot of footballers are from isn't too dissimilar in terms of like that inner city growing up and that sort of like thing, navigating all different types of things. If we're talking like ethnicity, if we're talking race, all of those sorts of things, it's not too dissimilar. Like, okay, obviously they're on the millions that they're on and they're playing at the football clubs they're playing at, but when it comes down to it, just having a natural conversation and just being yourself, I think those guys, I mean, at the end of the day, they're just people, you know. They're playing football and everyone talks about them, but I think they will be the first people to say, we're just people. We bleed the same, we eat the same, we run the same, we jump the same. Obviously, they jump and run faster, but, you know, the same thing. So I think it's just being a normal person. Like, ultimately, like, we're just people, and I think people warm to people who are real and genuine and, you know, have their best interests at heart and aren't trying to do any shady business, basically. So I think just that.
When you zoom out, what do you see your role in the bigger story of football culture?
Oh, um, I don't know. Like, it's I don't know if I. It's a interesting question because I don't know if I have one. Like, I don't know if it is my responsibility or I have any responsibility when you zoom out. Ultimately, I just feel like I'm just one small guy in a world of 8 billion plus people. But I think if I did have one, it would be that if I am like, you know, on a set or I am in a place where I am doing a piece where like it's around like storytelling of them, making sure that them, the person, is coming out and making sure that it's an authentic representation of who they are, what they stand for, what they believe in, and making sure that that is like protected and it's not like, again, trying to set people up for failure, as you often see within like football media and within like the world in general, just people trying to set people up for failure. I just think give everyone the chance to be who they are, speak how they want to speak, articulate themselves how they want to articulate themselves, and give them the platform to do that. So I think if I do have a role zooming out, it would be if I am in those spaces in future, being that and doing that and being able to be that person for them. And I think that would just be it, really. So.
Now, when you think about legacy, what do you hope people inherit from your work you're doing?
Oof, another big question. I think legacy, I never really think of that because I just think like I'm just a baby. Like I feel like that anyway. But legacy, I think it would just be to like be dedicated to things, stand for something, and I think like, you know, be have a level of like standard, like an attention to detail and accuracy. Like, I don't necessarily want to, I wouldn't say it's a given, be yourself. Like, that's a given. I think be accurate. I think we're in a world right now where a lot of people are just doing misinformation galore, just saying anything, and people buy it up because they're either the most popular person or the loudest person. So I think be that person that sits down and analyze the sources. Like, you read through things, and if someone's telling you something, before just saying yeah, yeah, yeah and agreeing, really sitting down with it and piecing it, you know, pulling it apart and understanding, is this true, is this genuine, and then sitting down and thinking, what is my viewpoint, and then having a viewpoint. Like, if it's what a lot of people agree with, but you've done that, like that grounding and that research, then that's fine. If it's something that you disagree with a lot of people, don't just disagree with people to disagree with people. Like, do your research first and come up with your own opinion. And if you have that, then of course, if you disagree, then great. If you agree, then great. But I think just like having that and, you know, having an attention to detail and really like researching things and understanding things past like the surface level, I think would be the main thing.
Where do you feel football culture is heading, and what part do you want to play in shaping that?
I think football culture is heading down a very Americanized route. I think it's heading down a very player-focused route now. I think I think it's been a bit like a long time coming. But don't get me wrong, there are like mavericks and stars in football. There's always been, and like that's what people gravitated towards in the styles of play. But I think in particular, I think maybe off the pitch now, the individualism is being brought to the forefront more. I don't want to say celebrated, because I think football still has a very like uppity culture, as in like the maybe like the power brokers in football have a very uppity culture towards like the athletes showing their individualism, because football ultimately is a team sport and there's 11 players. You know, people still have a big problem with players doing things outside of football, whether it be music, whether it be fashion, whether it be photography, whatever it is, whether it be just dyeing their hair a different color. People still have a problem with that even up to now. But I think it's definitely going down that player focused route. And I just think like is it my role or what what my role would be in that is just to ensure that if I am in that space, allowing that person and allowing their personality to shine through and come to the forefront. I think that's just the main thing. Like people are very like infused by, you know, the individuals right now, as they always are. But when you see like, I don't know, people like Lamine Yamal say like self-expression and that sort of thing, people are very much like yearning for those things. So again, if that's what they're yearning for, give the people what they want, but just make sure it's an authentic like representation of said athlete, of said player, of said person. And if we do that, then I think we'll be in a better place. So,
if you could pass one lesson or value you've inherited through football onto the next generation, what would it be?
I think it would just be like the power of like cohesion and like cohesiveness. Like you don't necessarily need to be the best friend of every single person, but if you come together and you know, take instruction well, you hold each other to the highest like standard, you know, you come together to, you know, discuss like your goals, what you want to get to and all that sort of stuff, then you can really do some real like ground shaking things. I think it stretches much wider than football, and it comes into like community spaces where like more and more so people are becoming very individual. But if people come together, unionize, I know I sound like a Labour man right now, but like unionize and like really think about how you can, like the power of being in groups and coming together and really setting those goals and setting those targets out, then, you know, you can achieve a lot more than if you are, you know, on your own. So I think that would be like the main thing.